Good morning, everyone. I'm Alicia. I'm an alcoholic. It's really good to be here today. This is the first Big Book Step Study meeting I'd ever been to about 1.5 years ago, and I'm really glad to be able to sit here and share with the people that have helped me both through the process and just feel like a part of AA and a part of recovery. So it's good to be here. I have been through the process with the help of a Big Book Step Study sponsor, a lot of Big Book meetings. A God of my understanding that I'm coming to find is very loving with some recent experiences that I've had. I'm making amends. I'm making financial amends right now and practicing the steps to the best of my ability on a daily basis. I noticed there were some people that raised their hand to say they're new to this meeting, so welcome. There's going to be I talk a lot about God, and the book talks a lot about God. So I know at the beginning for me in recovery and in the first meetings that I had gone to, I heard God. And I was really intimidated by that in a lot of ways because I was very adamantly opposed to an idea of God. This step particularly is all about God and having a conscious contact with God. So in my experience, it was very uncomfortable for me. I shut my ears for a lot of years because I didn't want to hear about God. I didn't want to think about God. I didn't want to know God. I was God. That was it. I was the higher power in my own life. And over time and working through the process, I've come to understand that that is not what God is to me anymore. I'm very open to hear other people's experiences with God. God's going to be used all over the place today, so that's my experience. And I just wanted to put that out there that at the beginning for me, when I was new, it was very uncomfortable. But I found that sticking with the program and continuously going to meetings and seeking recovery helped me to understand that was something that I could have in my life too. I didn't feel like I deserved God. I felt like God hated me. I felt like I wasn't good enough to be loved by God or to have any kind of power greater than myself that would help me in life. And it took me a lot of years before I came to understand that wasn't the case. The step 11 itself is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for His knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. That is such a huge, it's like a paragraph in the step. It's huge. There's so much in there. So what I have come to realize through both reading this and practicing, I have to seek God, and I'm willing to do that now. I had been through enough pain in my alcoholism and in my recovery, or in my sobriety before I even got to recovery. I had a lot of years where I wasn't going to meetings consistently and I wasn't listening. I was going to meetings where I would hear the problem. I would hear all of the stories about all the great things I did when I was drunk and all the wonderful jail cells I'd ended up in, and I could talk about waking up in the hospital. And that was sobriety for me. I thought, for a while, this is great, because I can talk about, my problems with other people, but at a point it came to be that that's not what I wanted anymore, and I didn't want to hear the solution. I was very closed-minded to it, so at this point, I had come to a Big Book Step Study about 1.5 years ago, and I was relieved because, for one thing, I didn't have to talk, and I didn't really feel like I had anything to share anyway. I would look around and see these people that were strong. I felt the strength coming from people in the Big Book Step Study meeting, and just the serenity. They could sit still. They had smiles on their faces, and that's not something I had. I was afraid to be alone. I was afraid to talk to people. I was afraid of everything. I was okay being at my house by myself because then I didn't have to deal with the world, and I could still live in the same kind of behavior that I was living at when I was drinking all the time. I'm an alcoholic because I can't stop drinking when I start, and I don't know where that's going to lead me. I don't know what's going to happen when I put a drink into my body, and it took a lot of pain and I was physically in the process of dying when I finally gave up and said I can't do this anymore. That was what brought me into recovery and what brought me into Alcoholics Anonymous. When I first sat at the Big Book Step Study meeting about 1.5 years ago, it was this meeting. A friend had brought me here, and she said, "You can't talk." I said, "Fine, good, thank you. I'll just sit there and I'll watch everyone else because that's what I like to do." But after coming consistently, I would hear the solution. And I love it when in the beginning of our reading for the meeting, it talks about, when we're focusing on the problem, we're not focusing on the solution. They can't exist together. And that gave me a lot of hope because I need I need someone else to help me and show me. And you know what, at the time when it couldn't have been God doing that for me because I wasn't open to God, it was other people that had been through this and could say, all right, this is what works for me. This is how I got to this point where I can, sit still and where I can have good things happen in my life. So that helped me at the very beginning. And then, even before I started working the steps with the Big Whoop sponsor, I had some things happen in life that were very uncomfortable. And just by sitting in the meetings and hearing how other people were living their lives before I was actually working this, I had already started shaping my mind because I was reacting to situations differently than I ever had in ways that I never thought would be possible. And I came to find out that that was God working in my life just by being willing to sit and listen and try to start working the principles. So step 11, I started reading steps 10 and 11 when I was writing my 4-step. But I come to understand that I can't actually start working step 11 until I've had experience with having a God of my understanding in my life. That started with me. The willingness, the size of a mustard seed, started at step 2 and 3 when I realized I didn't want God, but I was willing to say, okay, people would say it in meetings, or they'd say to me, believe because I believe. And that was okay for me. I could do that because I didn't believe. I did not, and I wasn't going to. But that helped me because I thought, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it. They're people just like me. They're alcoholics. They've been through what I've been through for the most part. And if they can do it, I can do it. So that's what my first God of my understanding was, is just the faith that something was going to work. So through steps 2 and 3, and then during the writing process, and then during the reading process with my sponsor, which was all very painful, those experiences and that working the steps that way, God would come to me in little ways, again, that I wasn't expecting, because I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe there was a loving higher power for me, but it did. I'd have these moments that were just unbelievable for me personally, and it wasn't these big earth-shattering moments. It was something as simple as the thought in my head that, hey, Alicia, this isn't you anymore. You're a woman that deserves to have a life, and you're a woman that, is capable of being loving and being productive in the world. That thought came into my head, and that wasn't me. So that was an experience of God. All through the steps, because I've done it this way, and as the book has it laid out, I did come to have these experiences with a God that I can understand, and that could be personal to me. Even, it's been a slow process for me. Because it's not, I thought, when I finished step 4 and read it step 5, and when I finished 6 and 7, I thought, oh, I'm going to be better, I'm going to be cured, I'm just going to be this walking Mother Teresa. It has not happened, and it's probably not going to happen. But I have experiences that keep me getting a deeper understanding of what that God is to me. And it's because I continue to do the work, and because I continue to talk to my sponsor and other people in the program, and I continue to come to meetings, and those things unfold as God wants them to for me. So, sought through prayer and meditation, I have to seek. I have to be willing to open my eyes, open my ears, open my heart, and let something else show me the way. Seeking through prayer and meditation. Prayer I've been doing also since the very beginning. I would pray for the willingness to believe in God. I pray, God, show yourself to me so I have faith that this is going to work, because I don't believe in you. And I would say this out loud. I don't believe in you, God. You got to show me. So I did seek through prayer. In the morning I would pray, God, help me know you today. God, show me the way today. Help me believe in you. And I would also pray a lot during my 4th step when I was hating everybody and everything. And even now when I find myself, oh my God, I really hate that person right now. I don't want those feelings in my life, so I pray. And I've been praying pretty much since the start of the process because I was told to. Because I took the suggestion and I was told to. Pray, Alicia, it's going to help you, and it has. That hasn't let me down yet. Meditation is thinking deeply in planning. That's the definition of meditation that I looked up. So when I was drinking, when I was in sobriety but not in recovery, I was definitely thinking deeply about all the people that I hated, all the reasons they were wrong and I was right, all the reasons that they were going to get what's coming to them. And then I was planning on how I was going to be part of that, how they were going to get what's coming to them. So all these unkind thoughts were going out into the world and making me miserable. Now when I think, when I meditate, I don't meditate in the sense of the word that I had an idea of before. I think deeply about okay, God, how can I know you better? How can I be the person you want me to be in the world? How can I do your will, and how can I accept your will in my life? I've had a lot of experience with that lately because, and thank God that I have some understanding of this now, and that I've been through the rest of the steps that have gotten me here, because I have what I would have done in the past is not what I'm doing now, and that's not of my own doing. That's because I'm opening up to say, okay, this is what you want for me, God. I wanted something specific. I always do. I want this, or I want that, or I want that. And it usually doesn't happen. And before, that would give me another reason to either drink, to run away, to do some awful behavior that made me feel better. But now, and again, it's God's grace, I can see why I'm not getting that thing that I want. And I can say, all right, God, you got this plan for me. I don't have to worry about it. That would never, ever, ever, ever have been my first thought or my first instinct, ever. And it even surprises me now. It's happened a few times this week, and I'm just kind of taken aback, and I'm like, wait a minute, is this real? Is this some kind of magic? What's going on here? It is real, and it works, and I never believed that it would. I get shaky thinking about it. So I'm not shy in prayer, even when I'm not seeing the results right away, or when I'm not having that intuitive thought. I know it'll come in time. I'm getting more used to understanding and believing that. There are times that I doubt a lot, because when I'm sitting there, and I'll spend full days every 5 minutes praying to God, where are you? Why aren't you showing me this? Like an incantation, kind of like the more I pray, the more God's going to hear me, and the more he's going to do what I want, or show me what the answer is. But if I'm constantly talking and I'm constantly putting it out there, when am I listening? When am I waiting for God to show me? It's the moments that I need to be quiet. I need to sit still and wait for it to happen. I need to pray for patience. My sponsor's always telling me, pay attention, Alicia, pay attention. How can I pay attention if I'm busy? God, where are you? Show me now. I'm not paying attention. So the biggest part of this for me is we relax and take it easy. That was probably the first thing I underlined and highlighted here, because my sponsor's always saying, pay attention, watch what's going to happen. And it's not in my time. And I'll be sitting there looking for it, like, was that a sign from God? Was that it? Was that you, God? No. When I finished writing my 8th step amends list, I was always, okay, sponsor, now what do I do? Let's do the next thing. I want to be willing. She said, you just calm down for a few days, watch and see what happens. And I was pissed. I was like, are you kidding me? I need to be doing something. Just pay attention and watch. And so, a day goes by, and then another day goes by, and nothing was happening. Nothing I thought was happening was happening. I thought should be happening was happening. And lo and behold, on like the 3rd day, I was out on my porch, and I just had this overwhelming sensation of love that I'd never felt before. That didn't come from me. So, another experience with, okay, God's here, and thank God for my sponsor, because she knows how to help me get through that, and just wait and pay attention. I'm glad I can hear that now, and listen and take suggestions. Another big part of this step 11 for me is don't be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. That was Alicia all of my life, until I started working the program. All of my life, self-pity. I'm not getting what I want. You did this to me, therefore my life sucks, and that's just it. It's everybody else's fault. And not only that, but I can't do this right. I can't do that right. I don't deserve to live. I don't deserve to be sober. I don't deserve to have a good life. Morbid reflection and remorse. That was me 100% inside and out. And I do still have to be a little careful of that now, because when I started working the program, I wanted to be perfect, a straight A student. I wanted to be, got this, I'm going to do this right. Well, I can't be perfect, because I'm a human being and I have alcoholic thinking. What I can do is I can try, and I can be willing to keep going, and try to see the positive parts, the positive things in recovery. So this is a clearly laid out instructions. All of the steps are so far, and I wrote little numbers and circled them where I see an instruction, and my sponsors helped me with that also, because I can sit here all day long and read this and say, but this means this to me, or I think I should do it this way. This is clearly laid out what will get us to that point where I can live a happy and productive, useful life sober, where I can stay away from a drink, I can stay sober, and I can ask God to help me with that. So it tells us exactly there's not a whole lot of room for interpretation. It's pretty clear cut for me. So the first suggestion is, when I retire at night and then I review my day, some of this I need a little clarification on at times. I know where I can be resentful and selfish and afraid, because I've been afraid all my life. That's just the second skin to me, but I can recognize it now. The dishonesty part is a little tricky, because I always thought dishonest, I'm telling you a blatant lie. Well, that's not necessarily true. I've been dishonest recently without even knowing it. Dishonest where, someone would say, is this okay? But yeah, it's fine. When really it wasn't. And really it was a big deal. And really, I have a right to feel like that's not okay. So many things that I didn't understand and I had misinterpreted for a very long time. That it's okay to stand up for myself. That it's okay to, instead of trying to avoid confrontation and make other people happy, it's okay to say, hey, that's not okay with me. Because if I'm not being my whole self, my true self, I can't be useful in the world or to anyone else, because it's a big fat lie. And that's not helpful to myself or anyone. And eventually that lie will keep compounding until I believe all these things that never, ever really even happened. And when I find out the shocking reality of the truth, I can have a rude awakening and possibly end up, back to the bottle again, because I can't handle it. So that's the first list of instructions here, how to review how I'm behaving and how I'm thinking, and to clear it out with someone else and get a sounding board for that. Because most of the time, God's not going to come out of the sky and say, hey, Alicia, here's your answer. It's got to be someone else, and that's been through the process, and that I can trust and that I can respect, because they're working the program as well. The next instruction is, in the morning, on awakening, whenever that may be, I ask, sometimes for me it's like, 11 o'clock at night. I ask God to direct my thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. That's a clear instruction. That's easy. I can wake up and say, God, can you help me today? Can you direct my thinking to what you would have me be? Not what I want, not what I think is going to be best for me, because a lot of times it's not. And God knows that. That's the experience I had this week. God knows that. And I always thought, when I was doing my writing and when I was putting out my ideas of what I thought would be, kind of a plan for what I want out of recovery in my life, I had very specific things, that were good, that I thought I can give to the world and I can expect back. And when I find myself straying from that and kind of giving a little leeway, well, I didn't really want that. This is acceptable. God can come and say, Alicia, this is really what you wanted. This is really what's good for you, and I can accept that and I can hear it. And that's really a blessing, because it's a huge relief. It takes all of that fear and need away from me, and I can say, all right, okay, I get it, and that's fine with me. I can accept it. A lot of times I don't, and then I just want to push a little bit more and, go down the wrong path a little bit more, and it's not good. Then the next instruction is, when I don't know what to do, ask God for inspiration. And then let it go. Drop it, Alicia, drop it. Don't sit there and wait for it and look for signs and follow the path and, like a little sleuth looking around with the magnifying glass. Where's the sign? Let it go. That's one thing I'm really practicing a lot lately, because I need to wait. And that's in that moment, and when I can just say, okay, I've given it to you, God, help me. Please show me. I have to step back, and that's where the faith comes in. That's where the faith comes in, because that's me saying, God, I know you're going to do this for me. I know you will if I ask. And my sponsor's also fond of saying, get on your knees, go to God, get on with your life. Get on your knees, pray, and then let it go and let God do his job. Don't follow him around saying, come on, God, do it. Because that's what I would normally do. That's what I'm practicing on, especially right now, to get better at. All of this is getting better. I'm not going to do it perfectly. I do need practice, though. I need practice, because this is something that I can only get better at this with experience and knowing that these intuitive things are happening and seeing them happen a little bit at a time. That's the only way it's going to get easier or better. Next instruction is, conclude the period of meditation, deep thinking, with a prayer that I be shown throughout the day what my next step is to be. And that I will also be given when I need to take care of it. Again, that's where more faith comes in. Because I have to say to myself, all right, Alicia, let this go and let it happen. And it does, and not in my time, maybe a week later, maybe a few days later, maybe not at all. But that in itself can be my answer oftentimes also. I have a family that is very into their own, religion and prayer and their own God, and that's fine. But where it says here, asking people to join us in our meditation, I do oftentimes. When I'm with my family, we will pray, and we're not all praying to the same God, and that's what's great. I can respect theirs, and they can respect mine. We can hold hands, and we can pray together, or even over the phone sometimes. A lot of my family lives in other places, but we can do that over the phone, and it gives me comfort to know that we can do that together, even if we don't believe in the same God. Next suggestion is, when we go through the day, we pause when we're agitated or doubtful. I'm agitated and doubtful a lot more than I'm peaceful and serene, to be quite honest. But I pause and ask for the right thought or action. And again, this is where I have to ask and then let it go and keep going about my day. And it does happen. There are so many times working through this process when I've had that intuitive thought, and I get chills because I didn't expect it, and I know that it works. I know that it's working. Having those, at the end of the day, I can come to meetings and I can go out in the world and I can, live my life, but at the end of the day, it's me. I'm alone by myself with God. And that is what I want to be enough for me, because there's not always going to be someone there and available all the time. I have to be able to rely on God and not another person, solely on another person, whether it be a meeting or recovery or my sponsor or whatever. That's also something I'm working at, is being consistent with my connection to God as I understand Him in the moments where I'm alone with God. That to me is going to be something that I'm working on and something that I'm really trying for. Because that is really, at the end of the line, in the final analysis, it's between myself and God. It really is. And that's where I want to be comfortable. So some examples that I've had of intuitive thought, a lot of times I've had these ideas that are completely foreign to me, like, you can do this, Alicia. Oh, really? I can? I didn't think I could. I'm not that old person anymore. I can start seeing myself as a new person, and all of the other things just kind of fade away. They don't define who I am anymore. When not reacting to things the way I used to, that's not me. That's all God working through me. One thing it does say in here that I was reading recently is, were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking what we could do for others? I've had a habit for many years of always thinking of other people before myself and not taking care of myself. So this, to me, was kind of tricky, because I was like, wait a minute. I've spent my whole life thinking of other people and doing for other people and people-pleasing. How do I do this the right way? Well, I have to ask God, how do you want me to do this, God? And then trust that God will show that to me. So when I think about, putting other people first, I first also have to take care of myself, because I can't be useful or beneficial in the world without doing so. So that was a little tricky for me, but again, more will be revealed, more is being revealed, and I just have to trust that will keep happening for me. I will say that this process works. I was sitting in this chair a year and a half ago, hearing people talk about God, and I was like, yeah, we're right. For them, maybe. They're better than me. They can do this. I can't. But it has happened for me. And every moment that I see, every moment that I feel and I see something beyond myself working in my life is just more of an example that the program works, and I have to keep working it. I have to get up and I have to take the actions, and I have to follow these suggestions as they're laid out in order for that to happen. So I hope to continue being willing, and I hope to be able to see the more things that are revealed in my life as a result of this program. But thanks everyone for being here today.